Hi, and welcome to Tranquil Talks with Chris. This is your space where you can slow down and catch your breath from the noise and the chaos of work and of life, and a space where I hope that you will always feel supported to take just one small, intentional step forward in how you communicate and lead with even greater clarity. I'm your host, Chris, and I'm really glad to be here with you. So, I had originally planned to record this episode earlier in the week, and I had another topic entirely planned out. But to be fully honest with you, I've been moving more slowly lately. Mother's Day is this weekend, and it's my first one without my beautiful mom. She passed away almost a year ago, and with this passage of time, I'll admit that there was a part of me that thought that this holiday weekend might feel a little bit easier, and it has not. It doesn't. I've actually really been having a hard time knowing that this is the first Mother's Day without Mom. And so instead of forcing myself to push through it, I gave myself permission to slow down as needed. And by slowing down this week, it's led me in another direction for today's episode and for the reflections that we'll close out with. So before we get to it, I wanted to give just a little bit of a background or a quick story that is going to segue into what I want to talk about today. A couple of days ago, I was on YouTube and I clicked on just one video from a business coach, just one. And I was curious about their topic. I wanted to hear their perspective. So I went ahead and eagerly clicked on it and watched it. And quite literally, right after I finished watching it, my entire feed, as it refreshed, it completely changed. Oh my God, suddenly it was video after video with all of the way that the titles or the hooks were written. It was video after video telling me what I'm doing wrong, what needs fixing, what I should be optimizing, how I should be selling differently, posting more, showing up better, etc., etc. And honest to God, I felt overloaded like immediately. And I know that YouTube is feeding me videos based on what I had watched. I get that. And I'm even sure that the videos that popped up in my feed had valuable advice. But man, I did not want this onslaught at all, actually. To be honest, it actually ticked me off that my feed became one of just, you're not doing this right. You're not doing this right. Do this, do that. No, thank you. And being an introvert, I like to be in my head, and I think a lot. I think a lot, and I think very deeply. What came up for me is a realization of just how much constant input we are all consuming right now. And then that led me to thinking even more about how this same dynamic, how it shows up inside of organizations too. I know that so many workplaces today are operating in a near constant state of input. More messages, more meetings, more notifications, more urgency and opinions and content and reacting. The list goes on. There's more, and very little space to actually process any of it. We've become so focused on speed and responsiveness that many people barely have time to think clearly before that next thing arrives. And that has real consequences because input without reflection, that's just noise. And it becomes harder to prioritize. It becomes harder to think strategically. It becomes harder to communicate intentionally. It becomes harder to distinguish what actually matters from what's just the loudest, what's the noisiest. And in your orgs, for your team members that are more naturally thoughtful processors especially introverts, that constant stream of input is utterly draining. So here are just a few reflections that I want to offer you as leaders this week. Reflection number one, or prompt number one. Where inside your organization are people being asked to constantly consume without enough space to process? Number two, where have you unintentionally confused urgency with effectiveness? And third reflection to sit with, what might shift if people had just a little more room to think before responding? I'll repeat these three reflections for you. Number one, where inside your organization are people being asked to constantly consume without having enough space to process? Secondly, where have you perhaps unintentionally confused urgency with effectiveness? And third reflection to sit with, what might shift if people had just a little more room to think before responding? Because not every problem truly requires an immediate or a faster answer. Quite frankly, sometimes the healthiest communication systems are ones that create space for reflection, for time, and for thoughtful response. And many people are craving that much more than we realize. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Until next time, please take good care of yourself and know that here at Tranquil Talks with Chris, you are always welcome here and you belong. Cheers.